Jesus Christ.
As I think about my early days here as a student at St. Paul Seminary, and as I look back on those times, we really developed a beautiful community amongst one another. We had close to 100 guys here at that particular time. And one of the things that we developed, and it's happened over the course of all these years that the seminary's been in existence, we oftentimes give each other people nicknames. And sometimes those nicknames stick to the point that it's hard to remember what their real names are. And I suspect that many of you have had that same kind of experience in your college days. And maybe the same thing happens. The nickname sticks and it's hard to remember what the person's real name is. Well, I mention that because that's exactly what happened with our buddy Barnabas today. You know, Barnabas was one of the early disciples of the Lord, and his relationship became so intense with Peter and with Paul that he comes as close to being an apostle, one of the first 12, as one could imagine. But it's interesting as you and I listen to Luke give some reference to Barnabas. One of the things that we learn is that Barnabas' real name was Joseph. But it was the apostles who named him Baranbas. And the word Barnabas means the son of encouragement. And isn't it true that, you know, whenever we give each other nicknames, we give those nicknames based on some particular element of our personality that takes precedence in the mind and heart of other people. And how beautiful it is for Luke to recount that the apostles gave him the nickname Barnabas, son of encouragement, because that's exactly what they experienced from Barnabas. If you check out the Acts of the Apostles, there are a number of times where Barnabas is mentioned, and in a very critical way. You know, first of all, that he was most generous in giving all that he had as the early Christian communities was beginning to be established. And then he really became critical to all that would happen with the building up and the spread of the church. You know, think about how much he was an encouragement, first of all, to Paul in the church in Jerusalem. People were frightened about Paul, you know, because he had been persecuting the Christians. And Barnabas wants to bring Paul into the community to say, what you've heard about him is really true. He has, in fact, been converted. He really is on our side. He's on fire with the Lord Jesus. And it was Barnabas who likewise encouraged Paul to come into that group where they could accept him. And then we take a look at the example that we have here this morning about what's happening in the church of Antioch. And while the faith was beginning to be nurtured among the Gentiles, there was a concern that somehow the church in Antioch was going to be split from the church in Jerusalem. And so what Barnabas does is he brings Paul into that community once again. And the both of them are so on fire with preaching the Lord that the church really moved in the direction of becoming more one. And then there's another time in the Acts of the Apostles where there was a serious debate over whether or not the Gentiles were going to have to take on the Jewish practices if they were going to be Christians. And it was Peter and Barnabas and Paul who settled the community to say, no, that wasn't going to be necessary. In every one of those experiences, Barnabas was true to his nickname. He was a source of encouragement. So as I'm thinking about Barnabas today, and as I'm thinking about the world in which we live in, I suspect that there is a good chance that you and I today can imitate ourselves after Barnabas. Somewhere along the line today, I think we're going to find the opportunity to be a source of encouragement to somebody else. Either by letting them know we're praying for them, or to help lift them up when they feel down, or to be able to help them touch into maybe a talent they haven't seen about themselves, or many other multiple instances that might in fact come our way. Let's take the powerful example of Barnabas so on fire with what Jesus always sought to do, was to encourage other people. And he encouraged so many other people in the early church. May we follow Barnabas' example and seek to imitate Jesus in becoming daughters and sons of encouragement.